The 70s were the golden decade of classic rock. If you turn on any classic rock radio station, you're likely to hear a lot of the great bands and songs over and over. But up next, we're going to count down 5 songs from legendary artists that don't get the airplay they deserve. Yep, it's our first edition of 70s Hidden Gems with commentary from key members of the Guess Who, Blue Oyster Cult, as well as Suzi Quatro and more. Next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Tell you what, if you are passionate about the greatest music of the rock and roll era, the best era, make sure to subscribe below. Hit the bell right now so you always get our daily features straight from the artists. Also check out more content at our page on Patreon. Now we've covered the 80s a lot and the 90s a couple of times, never the 70s. It's time to count down 70s Hidden Gems. 5 seemingly passed over songs from the 1970s that really ought to be in more regular rotation in our lives. Now to clarify, because there have been some confusion in the past about Hidden Gems, on radio and playlists, on streaming apps, and in pop culture, it just seems like we hear the same 100 songs on classic rock radio, and we love them. We do. But in addition to covering the classics, I love to spotlight songs that, while hits in their day, they just don't get their due now. These are songs that deserve a rediscovery, and in some cases, discovery. We have amazing commentary from the artists to go along with this, so let's get into our 70s Hidden Gems fiver. Number 5, a song from a Canadian band that is always in the argument for bands that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame but aren't. The Guess Who. They had bombastic lead singer Burton Cummings, truly one of the most underappreciated vocalists of any era, and of course, a guitarist Randy Bachman, who would go on to create several other renowned classic rock songs with his follow-up band Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Bachman Turner Overdrive.
1970, it's just a massive year for the band, as American Woman would go to #1 early in the year, making the band a household name.
American Woman said, "Get away."
But by the end of the same year, guitarist Randy Bachman quit the band and replacements were brought in. Really, he and lead singer Burton Cummings had been growing distant for a long time at that point. Bachman quit in May, and the band began to change with their next album, indicating a move into more intricate arrangements and vocal harmonies. While aiming for the new album rock format, the Guess Who brought in 2 guitarists from the Winnipeg rock scene, Kurt Winter from the band Brother, who was really making it big at that time, and Greg Lescue from the band Wild Rice. Winter would go on to become one of the Guess Who's primary songwriters. Our pick for the Hidden Gem is Share the Land.
Baby, I'll be there to shake your hand. Baby, I'll be there to share the land.
The title track from the Guess Who's 7th studio album. It's a song inspired by the cover star. The album cover had a picture of the chief of the American Cherokees. Burton Cummings would say that the Share the Land album was the biggest of the band's career. Interesting. I was able to interview Burton some time ago, and this is what he told me about the song and the album cover. That's why I'm glad that records are making a comeback. I was always fascinated by the record, and I loved that cover. It was very
That was
mysterious.
the chief of the American Cherokees. He was almost 80 at the time, and we were early 20s, and there was a hill. We climbed up the hill to do the rest of the photo shoot, and he beat us all to the top of the hill. And he was almost 80, and I was like 21 or 22. This guy was in better shape than any of us. He told us he had been bitten by snakes so many times that he had a natural immunity. He was a fascinating guy. Fascinating guy. Handshake would break your hand. You know, he's an 80-year-old guy. There'd be no old folks home for that guy. You know, he was great. And that was a nice photo shoot. And I liked the cover. It kind of exemplified whatever those lyrics were. Maybe I'll be there to share the land.
Maybe I'll be there to share the land that they'll be giving away when we all live together.
I kind of liked that idea. That was RCA's idea. And for once, I thought they did a pretty good job.
Of course, Kurt Winter came in, and He was in a huge group at that time.
Brother.
Canada. Brother. They were like a super group,
They
right?
could have made it, I think, had their attitude been better, because they sure have the songs.
But it's the second time around the woodpile.
And then Greg came in too, and who now owns a studio, or did. I remember the Crash Test Dummies recorded there.
Superman never made any money.
You started writing with Kurt, and
Yeah, Kurt and I became very good friends.
Every day comes sunshine. Every day, everybody.
I was never that really good friends with Cale or Peterson or Bachman. Not really. We worked together, but we weren't what you'd call friends. Kurt and I were real friends. We would get together and we'd get about 3 packs of Rothman's filter and about 48 cold beers and an acoustic guitar and my old upright piano, and we'd start partying and drinking and smoking. And usually by 2 in the morning, there were 3 or 4 new songs.
Yeah.
That was what it was.
And number 4, a remake of the #1 Elvis Presley original hit written by the legendary Otis Blackwell, All Shook Up by Suzi Quatro.
Come on, shook up, boy. Yeah.
Elvis's version was released in 1957 at the height of his fame. It went to #1 on the top 100 pop chart. It wasn't the Hot 100 yet. R&B and country charts. The Beatles, back when they were the Quarrymen, performed this song all the time in their early days, late 50s and into 1960. Though no recording exists of these many performances, in early 1969, during the amazing Get Back sessions, they did record an enthusiastic version with Paul McCartney and George Harrison sharing vocals. Lennon didn't join in the recording, as he was observing the performance while having his tea. Suzi Quatro recorded this cover for her debut self-titled solo album. That was in 1973. Of course, the title of the album in Australia is Can the Can. Her version of the song was released as a single in 1974, and it peaked at number 85 on the Billboard Hot 100. Elvis really loved her version, and here's what Suzi said in a Zoom session about it that we did recently. Elvis Presley said that was his favorite version after his.
Amazing. You know, he was my hero. It was our first American tour with the English band, and I'd already had a few hits and everything. All Shook Up got released. It got to the lower end of the charts, I think 45 or something, whatever. And I was in Memphis, and the phone rang, and Elvis's People came on first. You know, I'm like, because, you know, he's been here my entire career. He's been sitting on my shoulder. And then Elvis got on the phone. And I thought I would die. But I kept it cool, He said, I've heard your version of All Shook Up, and I think it's the best since my own.
Come on, shook up, boy. Yeah.
And would you like to come to Graceland? I said, no. And everybody looks at me like I'm a nutcase. And it wasn't because I was afraid. I said no because I wasn't quite ready to meet him yet. I'd only had 3 or 4 hits. And I thought, wait another year, you know, then I'll be more, you know, I didn't know he was going to die. But anyway, so he was a big fan. I even talked to his last girlfriend, and she said he used to go up into Rodney Bingenheimer's in the VIP room up at the top. And of course, Rodney Bingenheimer was a big, big fan, huge. And he would watch. He would listen to my stuff on the thing and look at the poster of me. I don't feel like there was anything sexual in it. I think he simply found me interesting.
As we go into the number 3 spot, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses that I fashion every single day. I love these. When you get your eyewear from Zenni Optical, you can say goodbye to foggy lenses and glare with Zenni's advanced 2-in-1 anti-fog and anti-reflective coating. One of the best features that they have. Go to Zenni.com to design your own today. They'll deliver them right to your house. At number 3, we have one of the many sensational songs from arguably the greatest debut album of the decade, created for over 5 years in several basements in the great city of Boston. It's Boston with Hitch a Ride. written by MIT graduate and musical virtuoso Tom Scholz. The song actually was originally called San Francisco Day, and it had been played in various bands by Scholz, but it was reworked by him for the album. With just heavenly vocals by the extraordinary Brad Delp, this song proves why Boston is one of the greatest rock bands of its time, and that virtually every track on that perfect debut album is inspired. Incredible guitar soloing and harmony, they just stop you dead in your tracks as a listener. In this song, Brad Delp sings about hitching a ride to a faraway place. It's just a blessed song of freedom and emotion, and at times it rocks out, other times it's just perfectly tranquil. Now, recently, I did a Zoom session with original Boston drummer Jim Mazdia, and this is what he said about Hitch a Ride. Hitch a Ride, incredible song. What do you remember about that one that stands out as you were working on songs with Tom?
It was the ending, starting to do those solo parts. Because of using the EQ net set of changes, the technology was introduced to make it better. Because now, instead of having the same guitar parts all sounding exactly the same, they have 5 different sounds. So even when we're working this, it would like blow me away. It was like, oh yeah, because he had a little setup, and so he was able to go through, and kind of do what we were playing. But then with the recording, of course, he would isolate, do one part, and get the sound just right. Just play that, then stop, change things. It's like the first time that his technical ability, his skills, his engineering skills, are introduced, where he's able to change a sound quality that for the last 50 years has always sounded the same. Guitars sounded like a guitar, electric guitar. You couldn't EQ it, you couldn't add a little delay, or you couldn't, chorus it. It's just a guitar. All of a sudden, his guitar sounded like 5 guitars. And so, again, for me, working on that song, and again, the beauty of that's the first song that showed promise. So I like to tell people that, if you want to look at the beginning, listen to that song. That's like being in my basement in Jamaica Plain in 1972. And it's funny, when we did that session, I forgot my cymbals. I live in Jamaica Plain, the studio's at Maynard, like an hour away. So we all get to the studio, we start setting up, and I'm like, where are my cymbals? So I'm like, it's going to cost them. Luckily, I had a friend who was able to go grab them and bring them out to the studio. But that was the song of that demo. That was the greatest song on it. It was just incredible. And I don't remember the singer's name, but the guy was good. The singer who did the original demo was good. It wasn't Brad, but the guy was good.
At number 2, we have a man who is as well known as any artist for the ultimate tribute to rock and roll, the epic and #1 smash American Pie. Don McLean. He's certainly a household name from that song alone, but he had a lot of other spectacular songs, including this elegant homage to one of the greatest artists in the history, Vincent van Gogh. We celebrate our number 2 spot with Vincent by Don McLean.
Starry, starry night.
Now, I spoke to Don over the phone about this song, and this is what he said about it. Really interesting. In 1970, you wrote Vincent, and of course, a beautiful ballad about the life and death of the Dutch impressionist Vincent van Gogh. And it charted higher, actually, in the UK than American Pie. It went to number 1.
With eyes that know the darkness in my soul.
I'm always looking around for an idea that interests me that I have never heard anybody do.
Well, I love the lyric, how you suffered for your sanity, and of course is referring to Van Gogh's schizophrenia. And for many years, hundreds of years, so-called medical experts, they misunderstood schizophrenia.
How you suffered for your sanity.
And they label someone with that disorder as being crazy or insane, but Vincent was written from your perspective that Van Gogh was not crazy, and you felt obligated to set the record straight, so to speak.
That started the idea of thinking about writing the song. And once I got into writing it, my own biography of him. What the fun part of it was, and it wasn't fun doing it because it's hard. You really have to concentrate. I have to really think about these things, and it takes up all my time. I don't have time to think of anything else. And if anybody gets in the way of I get ticked off. Because and they don't understand. I wanted to express his life and have it feel like the painting Starry, Starry Night.
Swirling clouds in violet haze.
So I wanted the color and the circularity and the passion and the physical things to happen that were like what he did as an artist. That was the challenge, rather than saying there once was a man who lived in wherever and
But still your love was true.
And now to our #1 spot, a band that has made history with their signature song about not being scared of the inevitable. My dad always said, or always told me growing up, that there are two certainties in the world: death and taxes. Well, Blue Oyster Cult hypnotized the masses many times over with Don't Fear the Reaper.
Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Baby, take my hand.
Thanks to great Christopher Walken, or should I say Bruce Dickinson, who's exactly like us.
Except once my pants are on, I make gold records.
Thanks to SNL, Blue Oyster Cult is known by every generation.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
And they may be best known for that song, but Blue Oyster Cult has had so many indelible compositions, including our #1 spot, Godzilla.
Godzilla!
A savage rock track that really satirizes the movie monster. This song, much like the movies, campy yet delectable. The guitar riff is as powerful as the monster himself. And it's a song that is just so much fun to listen to. The song, of course, got play on album rock stations, but barely charted in the Hot 100. It deserved better, in my humble opinion. Now, I had a chance to chat with Blue Oyster Cult founders Buck Dharma and Eric Bloom about this hilarious track, and here's what they said about it. And also, another thing that you did with your shows, it was cool, was the animatronic Godzilla.
Yes.
That was such a cool song. It's got that rawness to it that is rock and roll. It's got the heavy metal, but it's almost a little bit of punk rock in there. You were a fan of monster movies.
Yeah, we all were. Back when we were growing up, there was, before VCRs and on demand, $1 Million Movie in New York City would play the same movie twice a night for a week. So you could see it multiple times.
We all grew up in the metropolitan area, so.
But otherwise you couldn't. There was no way to do that. But they'd show the Godzilla movie and you could see it multiple times, and we did.
We saw like the original with Raymond Burr.
Now he's making his way toward the city's main line of defense.
But we liked all the Roger Corman movies and all the kind of movies like that.
Yeah.
Horror, monsters, everything. I mean, who didn't?
Well, on the riff, how did you come up with that?
Just sort of came out of the fingers, But made me think of Godzilla.
The song, I love the lyric. History shows again and again how nature points up the folly of men.
Right.
You guys always had this stuff that would go beyond just that 3-minute pop song that would be playing in the background.
Yeah.
Even this song that was kind of campy, like the Godzilla movies, it was deep.
Well, to me, that seemed to be the moral of Godzilla, from Toho. That was from their perspective.
Second half of the song, you speak Japanese. Where did that come from, and how did you do that?
I don't remember the original idea of why I did. Do you?
I think you wanted to do it, and you got a hero to translate.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours who was a Japanese photographer.
Yeah,
from and I had gone to Berlitz and taken a jam course in Japanese. I was a language major in college, so I took this 30-hour intensive Japanese course, and this guy translated what we wanted to say. So I learned it, and there it is.
And we had a slot for it in the song right after that bass lick. You know, where it just kind of vamps on that rhythm for a while, and it was perfect for Eric to do that.
Godzilla.
So there you have it, 5 hidden gems from that delicious and expansive decade known as the 1970s. Leave us a comment about these songs and artists. What other songs should we cover on here? What are some of your memories of these great songs? I really want to hear your insight. You can hear these songs in our YouTube playlist below. We'll link to that. To get some of these artists' music, check out our links below. I tell you what, if you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe. Also, go check us out on Patreon. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.